So it's great to be here. This was a great lineup of sessions. This has been a whole great NACIS. You know, I haven't been here since 2018, I think. It's good to be back, but it's very sad to see this is the last day of everything. But I'm glad to be here, and I'm very thrilled to share maps.com with you. Just a quick show of hands. Has anybody heard of maps.com? Yeah, a few Esri folks, some other people might be familiar with the previous maps.com store. But this is really exciting for me to share with you because even inside of Esri, very few people know about maps.com, what it's going to be, and what it actually entails. So this is super exciting for me, and I'm glad that you're here to see that because you're seeing for the first time what people even inside the organization have not seen or heard about yet. To kick things off, I want to share a reel that we put together. So that's pretty exciting, right? And that concludes my talk. But to really start things off, I'll have to admit, this is one of the most ridiculous slides that someone could have at a map conference, right? Like, why maps? Every single one of us can answer that question. But I want to be very specific about why Esri is interested in maps and why we at maps.com are focusing so strictly on maps and what they can do. So as a human species, we are inherently visual, right? Like human beings have been making graphics, symbols, and artwork for 30,000 years before we penned a single word. And that's fascinating because that says something about the way we want to communicate, the way that we inherently want to share information with others. And you can see that in examples of even early history and reading books like the Iliad, which didn't start out as a book. But if you read that story and you think about evidence of writing, you'll notice a stark absence of it. There is no mention of writing. There's no mention of numbers being written down, no libraries, anything like that in the whole story, except for one. There's an introduction of something called the Fatal Letter, where they had these tablets that were sort of sealed together with a little note that says, "Kill the bearer of this thing." And historians actually use that to find out that was introduced later and wasn't part of Homer's original story. And that's just a neat sort of anecdote to underscore the importance of visual communication that long predates writing. Like we told stories for millennia that didn't have any mention of any writing. So we were relying on pictures and imagery to tell stories. And modern readers expect this. They're used to this in sophisticated news graphics. Newsrooms are constantly putting out really amazing graphics showcasing world events and complex situations that are happening around us. And even though we're very familiar with this, a lot of readers don't know exactly what can be mapped, that there's a rich geographic data space out there, that we can share things geographically. A lot of things have a geographic component that folks don't realize, and that this all connects us to our place in the world, to our place with each other, and we can use this to tell rich and dynamic stories. And even though maps have been around for thousands of years, we're just getting started. There's never been a better time to make maps, to find maps, and to learn more about them. And NACIS is a great testament to that. We learn every time we come to these conferences, and it's peak cartography, and it's one of the things I love. And it's one of the most exciting things about maps.com. So we do have some specific goals for maps.com. The first of these are just to foster and amplify that love of cartography, excuse me, and demonstrating the transformative power of maps. Maps can tell stories in ways other things can't. A previous slide just touched on that, how we went 30,000 years without writing. So we can touch on things with geography and imagery in ways that writing can't. And we also want to inform and foster an appreciation for geographic literacy and graphicsy. So graphicsy in the same way that we have literacy, learning how to read and write. How we communicate and understand things visually is what graphicsy is all about. And earlier this week, we learned about some of the NACIS objectives, which included that very same thing. So there's a great deal of overlap with maps.com and NACIS in that regard to inform and encourage graphicsy within the general public. we also want to highlight remarkable maps and extend the reach of the cartographers who make them. So one of the things that I want to make very clear is that maps.com is about you, the cartographers. We want to give a platform to those who make maps. This isn't just a place to find maps, to read about them. This is a place to share maps, to get your name out there, to get your work out there, and to build a platform for you. So what you can expect from maps.com. The first thing is articles on interesting, impactful, and beautiful maps. We feature maps from a variety of sources that will inspire, challenge, educate, and reward and provoke readers across a range of topics. A lot of times, maps are thought of as, beautiful, interesting things, but sometimes it's the story being told by the map that is really the story and the thing to highlight. Sometimes it's the way the map is built, the data that's coming into it. And all of these go into the design decisions of the map and why we would select it for maps.com. It's also going to be a very visually rich and vibrant experience. It's going to have native interactives, static images, videos, and apps that are launched either from maps.com or hosted directly within maps.com itself. And again, diverse topics and content creators. This is for anyone to submit maps to, but we're also going to showcase maps from artists that from public agencies, from content creators, influencers. There is no limit to the audience that we're both sourcing maps from and providing maps to. I also want to touch on a little bit about who's behind maps.com. Robby Deming is our lead editor. He's the editor-in-chief of maps.com, and he's been with Esri for a little over 15 years doing media relations and things like that. And then, of course, there's me, who just joined. I've been there for about 9 months now, and my sole focus at Esri has been on maps.com. But we're led by Cassidy Bishop. He's the head of digital experience for all of Esri, and Jackie Newell, who is our digital experience strategist. But that's a very small number of people who are doing this. But there's an enormous network of UI, UX designers, SEO experts, accessibility experts. We've got the whole creative lab chipping in on things. There's an enormous team within Esri that's contributing to maps.com and making it the success that it's going to be. So this is a preview of an article. Take away the scroll so you can see it all at once. But it's a very visuals first experience. Maps, charts, and videos are front and center. They get top billing. There's still going to be text there, but it's going to help clarify and describe things, but more importantly, it's going to be linking to and naming the creators of these graphics. Again, this is a platform to give elevation to those content creators who are submitting their maps. There's also detailed metadata about each map, who made it, where it came from, the data that went into it, where that's applicable. And there's also a rich structure for categorizing and tagging all these articles. So there's obviously search like you'd expect on a website, but there's also organic and guided discovery. So anytime you're on an article, we want to show you similar articles to that are based on that same sort of content, maybe that same author or producer, and then allow you to discover things on your own through our tagging system. As I had mentioned, sharing your maps is a big goal for maps.com. So there's a submissions portal where readers will be able to go share their map, provide some information about it, and then it goes to our queue where we'll highlight only the best of those maps. Again, maps.com is a place that we want to showcase great maps. Only the best will make the cut, and that's going to come as a sort of a badge of honor. When you get your map featured on maps.com, we want that to mean something. We want that to feel good. We want that to be something that you are proud of. We are already receiving 90,000 visitors a month just from our email subscribers who are ready to hear about this, and we anticipate that's going to be millions annually once we launch. So unless you're like someone like John Nelson or others who have this large following, maps.com can really help you get your name out there. And even if you do have that, maps.com is just another avenue where we can tell a story with your graphics. So I'm sure you've already done this, but if you do go to maps.com today, what you'll see is this page here. Our launch is really imminent, and I mean it's days to weeks, and I don't know exactly when that's going to be. We're hoping as early as next week even. Once you settle in and get back to work, you might be able to pull up a live maps.com. And this is because we're trying to get it correct. There's a lot of things going in here with accessibility, getting that user experience just right. We've added so many things and then pulled them back because it just didn't feel right. We want this experience to be good. We don't want it just to get it out there to get it out there. We want you to really love it when it's there and enjoy it. So we're making sure that we get this just right. We already have more than 8,000 subscribers to our email newsletter. I encourage you to be one more of those. You'll be the first to find out when we do go live. You'll be in that first group who can start digging through things, poking holes in things, providing feedback, giving commentary, and you'll also have the earliest access to our submissions portal. And that'll be a great way to get your maps in and then share it on maps.com. We're also going to be very large on social media with Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter or X or whatever it might be when the time comes. But we're already there, and we're looking forward to sharing a lot of content on there, especially your content. Now, it'd be remiss to talk about what Maps is, what Maps.com is, without talking about what it is not. So the first thing I want to clarify, it is not Esri only. This is not a place that you're going to go to find only maps made by Esri employees, only made with Esri software. The software, the workflows, does not matter. We want to share great maps because they're great, regardless of who or what made them. It's not an ad platform. There's going to be no ads on Maps.com. We're not using this as a way to click you into signing up for ArcGIS Line or anything like that, and it's not for sales leads. The whole purpose of this is to showcase great cartography and bring attention to the cartographers behind it. I also want to make clear that it's not a side project. This isn't something that somebody just did as like a pet weekend project. The domain itself was incredibly expensive. If you can imagine, maps.com, that's very desirable. So there's a lot of effort and interest behind that. It has its own dedicated team behind maps.com. We have our own branding guidelines, our own style, our own editorial standards. So even though Esri is putting its whole weight behind this, it has a separate way of operating that's a little unique, and I think something that a lot of our users are going to really love. So with that, I'll close things up. If there's time for questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd be delighted to speak to you afterward. Thank you. Okay, great. So there's some time for questions if anyone has any. Yes?
How will you make money or support for the staff?
Okay, great question. So he's asking, how will we make money or support for the staff? Esri already makes money. This isn't a goal that we need to do. The whole purpose of this isn't to make money. There is enough money coming in from other resources that they can do this. So this is never going to be something that is driven by a financial metric. And that's good news to our users who know that they can submit their map and share it without it being a financial carrot on a stick, so to speak.
So is it owned by Esri then? Or like?
Yes, Maps.com is owned by Esri, but it's an altruistic endeavor just to showcase great cartography. Yes. One more. Yep, go ahead.
Can you speak to the submission process? You take print and web, and any ideas on how I'm
Sure. So
what kind of submissions do you expect to accept?
absolutely, that's a great question. She asked what kind of submissions do we expect to receive and how that process works. So on our website, we'll have a form where you can upload your map. Maybe that's a digital file of a map that, excuse me, that already exists. Maybe it's a link to an interactive, or maybe it's a photo of an analog map. Those are all acceptable. So once you go through that, you just supply some contact information, a link to the work if it does exist online, and there will be a couple of other steps, and then it goes to our queue where we'll review and curate it, and those that do get selected will be contacted, and we'll ask you for some more information about that, and then we'll write the article to share it up, and just make sure that we get all the information right, and your map will then go live for the world to see. All right, thank you.